Hi all, this is Amit from Informatica GCS, and today I'm going to discuss about IDD User Exit, different types and methods. Our agenda today would be, as I discussed, types of user exits, different breakpoints or entry points within IDD. We'll create a sample user exit on IDD save action. We'll also create a custom action within IDD. To begin with, I'll just go ahead and quickly go through the documentation that we have in the form of Java docs, which is very useful for all the developers who are developing or who are looking forward to developing user exits related to IDD. These Java docs are available within the resource kit under samples or docs, where you can go through these documentations, where it will define different types of operations that are available to us and different entry or breakpoints within a operation. So when I say types, there are primarily two types of operations. One is a custom operation, which is nothing but a custom action. The second is a user exit on a defined operation. The defined operations are save, send for approval, task, merge, HTML relationship, save action. User operations are, for example, under the IDD data tab, more actions, you can define certain custom operations, or in the HM canvas, you can define certain custom operations. There are several breakpoints available, or let's say entry points available within each type of operation. So this doc gives us a detailed explanation on the different types of operations that we can perform at different entry points. So user exit covering save, send for approval, or task for operation gives you 4 different methods: before everything, before save, after everything. Under before everything, you can perform different kind of data validations, and you can report different error types, warnings, or confirmations to the end user. Note that at this point there is no transaction that has been started. Before save is a point where IDD has started a transaction and is preparing the objects for persistence on the database. In here you can perform certain data manipulations. If you choose, you can also perform certain validations and throw an error back to the user if required. Note that if you throw an error back to the user, it's gonna roll back the transaction, cancel the transaction. After save gets called once the data has been persisted on the database side. You may choose to perform certain validations on how the data looks like after the persistence has happened. At this point, the transaction is still active, it hasn't been committed. So if you want to throw an exception to the user, you can do this at this point, and that exception will result in a rollback of the transaction, so none of your data changes will be persistent on the database side. After everything is a method which gets called once the commit has been performed, the data has been persisted on the database. In here you can perform certain validations or custom actions. For example, a change in party has resulted for a certain action to be performed on a different entity type, or you need to inform your downstreams about this change in party. So you can perform those kind of validations and after, custom actions and after everything. And the same goes for merge. It has different entry points: before everything, before merge, after everything. The concept remains the same. I would say any developer who has been developing or who is looking forward to developing these user exits to refer to this Java docs, which is a very useful piece of information about individual methods, all the APIs that are available for them to use. Let's go ahead and proceed with our sample today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a sample user exit on a save action. And to begin with, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to create a class. So I hope before we begin, everybody has gone through the KBs on how to set up an Eclipse workspace. If not, you can just go ahead and download Eclipse and have the resource kit on your local machine. And then once you've downloaded Eclipse, just launch it, create a new project using existing Java and build file, and then navigate to our resource kit, samples, IDD user exit. There is a build file there, just select that, import it, and you'll have your workspace with sample examples created. So let's proceed with our save operation. So let's say I'm going to name it custom save. every user exit will always, you know, import this class. Import is not the right word. In Java terms, it's going to extend this class. So this is basically the parent class that it has to use. And based on the type of operation, you have to define your interface. So in this example, I'm using a save operation. So I'm going to define my save operation interface, and I'm going to click on OK, and I'll click on finish, and you see example class will be created for me with all the valid operation types, like before everything, after save, after everything, and before save. You'll note that this additional method gets created. In here, all you gotta do is just define an operation type, and tell it what operation type it is. Please note that you have to put the right operation type here. If you put a wrong operation type, this user exit class will not be called during save. So it's very important you put the right operation type under this method. So I'm going to move on to another class which I had earlier created, and show you a quick sample that I created. So if you guys remember, like I was telling you about before everything, where you can perform different data validations and ideally like throw an error or a confirmation or a warning to an end user. So in this example, what I'm doing is an end user is saving a party, and all I'm doing is performing a validation and seeing if the user entered an address for it. If the user didn't enter an address for it, I'm going to throw an error back to the user saying please enter an address before we can persist the party within the system. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the BDD object, which is the collection of all the fields within the IDD, the primary as well as the child subject areas. From this object, I'm going to retrieve the child subject area by its name. Once I have retrieved the child subject area, I'm going to do a simple validation here, and basically checking if the object is not null and the size is greater than 0. If that's the case, that means he has put in an address. You may choose to perform certain other validations out here by going through each object. Please note that this is a list, so if he has 2 addresses, you'll have to go through the list, and you'll have to go into a for loop and perform the validation on both the addresses, and then you can go ahead and return operation result as OK, which basically tells IDD that you can go ahead and perform the next logic. So it gives a go ahead. It's a flag which says the validation is successful, please perform your logic. So control goes back to IDD. And if in the case the user didn't provide any address, if this condition didn't meet, then I'm throwing in a message back to the user stating, hey, you haven't inserted a single address for this party, please go ahead and do that before we can persist. You can use the same mechanisms like in before save, after everything, where we have the object types, the object. You can use this object to draw extract the custom information that you've entered, extract the children, perform data manipulations, and all that. So this is a simple example of a save handler which gets called once you click on the save button with an IDD. Now we'll talk about a custom action. Custom action is something which is visible under more actions. So this is a very simple example, one of very common use case where people would like to consolidate their primary party if the record is not consolidated. What I mean is, if the profile is sitting on a consolidation indicator of 2 or 4, and they want to mark it as a golden record with consolidation indicator as 1. So in this operation, what I've done is, in the same fashion, I've created a class with this name. I've again extended the same base operation plugin, but I've implemented the user operation plugin in here. So what it does is, it gives me 2 methods, operation type and process operation. So what I've done is, under process operation, going ahead and extracting the UID object value, and just making sure it's not an add request, like it's not a new party they're creating. So if that's the case, I'm telling the user, hey, you cannot persist this party till the time you cannot consolidate this party till the time you persist it. And if it's a valid party, it's already persisted on the database, then all I'm doing is creating a site sys API. I'm preparing my request, making sure that I set the record state as 1, executing that API, and returning the result back to the end user. So this is a very simple example of how you can create a custom action. And all I gotta do is once I've created this class with an IDD configuration, I have to go and define a user exit tab with the custom action name and then point it to this class. And once you redeploy the IDD application, what you will see is under more actions, you will see that custom action name. So anytime you click on that custom action, this code gets executed. So this is it, guys, on the basics of IDD user exit types. We've gone through different samples for custom actions, save action. This is a few resources which you can refer to, like as we were discussing, I was going through the Java docs where I showed you different types and different methods and when they can be called. Further information is available under the implementation guide for IDD, which is part of the resource kit, and from 9.5 onwards it's available on the support portal for download. I would appreciate your feedback. Please go ahead and you can either send us an email on the address, or you can tweet on the following info support tweet. Thank you.